Hi everyone, so in this week's video I'm going to be talking about the steps you need to do to become a certified youth life coach. So I'm Liz Robson, CEO and founder of Worth It, which is a social enterprise in the UK that specialises in using applied positive psychology and coaching psychology to prevent the onset of mental health problems in children and young people. And we've developed an accredited coach training course based on my academic research, and it's accredited by the Association for Coaching. So you might be thinking, oh, I'd quite like to learn how to do coaching so I can either integrate it into my role as a teacher, a youth worker, youth offending service, nurse, family support worker, social worker, and integrate coaching into your practice. And you might want a certified well, it's not really a qualification, it's a certification like an accreditation. So you might be thinking, I want to add that string to my bow so I can integrate coaching into my practice. Or you might be a counsellor, a mentor, a tutor. You might be wanting to set up a coaching business to work with young people. We know that there's a huge, massive need for young people to have more early intervention and prevention to support the prevention of mental health problems developing, and there's a massive gap in the workforce. So like increasing capacity for more people to become coaches is a dream of mine, because coaching is still not really heard of as a way of supporting early intervention and prevention. It's still very much seen as an adult approach for performance development and performance management, but many of the principles of coaching are actually really important for young people to increase resources and capacities to navigate and negotiate the challenges of life and everyday life. So training to be a coach is a really great way to do that. So what do you need to do to train to be a coach and become certified? The first thing you need to do is get some experience of working with young people. Working with young people is different to working with adults, and by young people I'm really talking about 13 to 25. That's what I classify as young people. So adolescents, so you're still an adolescent until the age of around your mid-20s, where your brain is still developing until like your mid-20s. So it's a prime time during that window of adolescence to really learn some positive strategies for well-being and resilience that are going to help you navigate life and have flexible and accurate thinking, develop interpersonal skills, develop goal setting, goal-driving behaviour, self-awareness, stress management strategies, solution focused strategies that help you find your own solutions and help you kind of build up this resource tank, so that when you're faced by a challenge or a setback, you have stuff in your bank account to draw upon. So I used to use the metaphor of like a bank account going overdrawn. So what we want to be doing through using coaching is helping people fill up their bank account with resources that when something happens, like they apply for a job and they don't get it, get dumped by their girlfriend or boyfriend or partner or whoever, or there's a falling out of a friendship group, that's another big one, or they have to move to a new place, or something unexpected happens, that they have resources within themselves to be able to navigate and cope with that challenge and change. So what we do through coaching is help them learn all those resources and help them practice and use those resources with you through your relationship with them as a coach, so that they feel safe to try things out, and they also can practice with you and experience strategies for well-being, which then make the interventions and approaches that they're learning more impactful and more effective. So the first step is to get some experience working with young people. Coaching young people has its own nuances and challenges compared to working with adults. So I trained working with adults when I first learned coaching, and then I always started to use it with young people pretty early on, about 15 years ago, and then I started to adapt things to understand how it's different for young people. So one of the major sort of controversial opinions I have around coaching is that most coach training courses that you'll do will use goal setting as the kind of crux of the training, and like the focus of coaching is goals. What is your goals? How do you want to move forward towards your goal? Write your goal down. What strategies have you tried to help you move towards your goal? Whereas I believe with coaching young people, especially vulnerable young people, that the goal setting might actually be a contentious issue, and some young people don't even believe they're worthy of having a goal. They don't believe they're good enough to have a goal. They might never have been asked before. They might be triggered into fear about thinking about anything in the future, because there's so much uncertainty in their lives that if they think about the future, then it automatically makes them feel stressed and start to panic, because every time they look forward to something, it got snatched away from them. So they don't want to plan, they don't want to prepare, and they don't want to have to look forward to things because they're so used to things changing all the time. So asking them, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years time? First of all, it's not developmentally appropriate, because that part of their brain to see into the future is literally not developed. And secondly, it can be triggering. So what we want to be doing is, instead of working on what the goal is and understand the goal and moving towards the goal, we want to help them identify micro action steps to move forward. They might have a big kind of picture, of fuzzy goal of where they want to be in future, but they tend to be much more feelings based, like I want to feel better, I want to feel more confident, I want to have better friendships, I want to make decisions that are better for me, those kind of things, more than like smart targets. Not a big fan of the smart target, again, controversial. So we want to be helping them with goal-striving behaviours, which is the ability to be flexible, to adapt to changes, to find the agency within themselves to move forward towards their goals. So that's the first thing about one of the key differences when you're learning to coach young people and when you're learning to coach adults, is the focus on the goals, especially in my work, in my approach to coaching young people. The other thing that is different when we're learning how to coach young people is the understanding the developmental stages that they're in and working with their brain development. So what we know is, due to the research for the amazing Professor Sarah Jane Blakemore and her work around adolescent brain development, which is phenomenal, and anyone who works with teenagers should be looking at her work, is that during adolescence there's a massive developmental stage that is under kind of serviced, where the young person's brain is being stripped down and rebuilt. This is really nicely represented in the film Inside Out 2. If you've seen that, it's beautiful. These little like minion type characters come in and start just like smashing up the brain and like with chainsaws and chopping it down. So that's representing synaptic pruning. And what's happening is the neural pathways are actually being stripped down and rebuilt. So during adolescence, if we don't use it, we lose it. So what we want to be doing is reinforcing positive and helpful pathways that are helping the young people find their own solutions and develop flexible and accurate thinking, and then not reinforcing the more unpleasant, challenging, I don't want to call them negative thought pathways, but unhelpful thought pathways, or like rigid thinking, or black and white thinking, or all or nothing thinking. So the common thinking errors that you'd come across in CBT. So what we want to be doing is helping young people, whilst their brain is malleable and plastic, it's neuroplasticity is what it's called in neuroscience, is actually working with that developmental stage to reinforce positive, helpful neural pathways that help them develop these internal resources for resilience and well-being that help them navigate challenges and situations that they're in. So that's another key thing that's different between coaching young people and coaching adults, is they are in this developmental stage, which sometimes will mean they can be a challenge to work with, because their brain is being stripped down and rebuilt in front of your eyes. They might not have the words, so like giving them space, giving them silence to actually literally have that thought for the first time in front of your eyes is significant and different, and they just might not have as many solutions and strategies. So sometimes when we're working with young people, we might need to be slightly more directive and then move towards a non-directive approach when we've got the rapport and relationship. Also, depending on the needs of the young people that you're working with, you might have to spend a lot more time repairing the relational capacity for them to even engage with you, because if they're from a traumatic background, then they might not have trust in the services, they might not have trust in adults, and what you need to do through coaching is demonstrate that relationship built on equality and trust, so they actually can open up to you and then start to work on some of the psychological resources for well-being and resilience. So again, there's nuances and different ways to understand. So in order to kind of apply that knowledge I've just reeled off there into your practice, you first need to know what young people are like and how to work with them, and if you actually like working with them. Like, I really like working with young people because their change can be so rapid and amazing in front of your eyes, and you're really helping them in this time of their life when they're growing, especially 16 to 18. I like that age group the best. And they can be really hard, especially girls can be really like cripplingly self-conscious, and that is a developmental stage that they are going through, where it's called the invisible audience, where they just think everything they do is being scrutinized by this invisible audience, so they're cripplingly self-conscious. So again, when they're working with you as their coach, you have to kind of be aware and understanding and sensitive and empathetic to these things. They can't help it. That's just a stage that they're going through. So get experience working with young people. Decide if you like working with young people and what it is you like about it and why it excites you, and you know, so you can really be kind of passionate about that, because it's not easy. It's quite challenging working with young people. Then you want to choose a training provider. So I don't think there are actually that many training providers around that do a certified, well, customers have told me that there's not that much choice. And I'm not saying you have to choose my course. I want you to make an informed decision about what is right for you. So I have an accredited coach training course that's accredited by the Association for Coaching. It's online blended learning, and you do 6 live workshops and online videos in between in a blended learning model, and we run it 3 times a year. Or if you're from an organisation, we can deliver it exclusively for your team in your organisation. And then you work through the online modules, and then you have to do some coaching practice with young people, which we review and reflect back to you feedback, and then that helps develop your practice. And then we also have a accelerated certification route with the Association for Coaching, so you can actually do the training and then work through the accreditation pathway, so you become an accredited, certified, worth it coach quicker than you would do on your own. And the reason why we do that is because we're working with young people and children, and sometimes might be working with families or in settings or looking at procurement processes, and you want that credibility and that ethical practice side of it. I think for working with young people, we have to be very careful about safeguarding and ethical practice, and having a certification and an accreditation really shows it's like a quality assurance thing. It shows that you're taking it seriously. It shows that you want to be credible and seen as a responsible person. So when we're working with children and young people, we have to be very mindful of that. So yeah, then we have to understand their needs and developmental stages that I've mentioned already. Gain practical experience of coaching young people. So this is where you actually start taking what you've learned from the courses and putting it into practice and having a go coaching young people. And this can be easier said than done, especially if you're used to working one way of working with young people, like teaching or youth work or clinical approaches like nursing, and you're used to a certain kind of helping model or helping role, and coaching's different. I mean, the main difference between coaching and other sort of helping roles, and I've got a video on where coaching sits with other different styles of intervention. I'll link it up here. So yeah, where coaching fits with other interventions is that coaching is based on a relationship built on equality. So what we do as coaches is first establish that equal relationship with a young person. Now, a young person might never have experienced that before. They might be looking to you to tell them what to do or give them advice or whatever. And one of the first things we have to do when we engage a young person in coaching is explain that isn't what it is and isn't what's going to happen, and that we can design the relationship together based on what both parties understand it's going to do, and help them develop and design a relationship that fits both of your needs and skills and experience and what the young person wants to get out of it. And just the experience of that automatically helps to develop their agency and their resourcefulness and their well-being, just by like establishing the relationship dynamic. Like the process of the intervention of coaching as an intervention is part of the reason why it improves wellbeing, as much as what you contain within it, as much as the interventions and tools and strategies that you learn. The relationship itself is also why it works, in my opinion. That's what I think. So then you have to practice, and then you have to develop your ethical practice and boundaries and safeguarding concerns, especially if you're working with vulnerable young people. You know, if you're out there on your own and you're going into different schools and settings, you need to be following and adhering to the safeguarding procedures. You need to have your own, you need to be aware, you need to be DBS checked, you need to do all those things. And also you need to know when the coaching hat comes off and when the safeguarding hat comes on. So always override everything with safeguarding. So if a child or a young person discloses something to you and it's a safeguarding concern, you immediately act upon that following safeguarding procedures. You have to break the trust, you have to tell other people, you have to keep the child safe at all costs. So we always have to have that as part of our ethical practice. Again, that's different than you might have as an adult because we don't have to have safeguarding. Well, it depends on the field of what you're anyway, I digress. But at the heart of coaching young people, we are child-centred, we are young person-centred. We have them at the heart, which means sometimes coaching ends and safeguarding comes in, because that is an overarching priority to keep them safe. So then we have boundary management, where we have to look after ourselves as coaches, which means attending supervision, dealing with your own stuff. And lots of people are drawn to this type of work because they are a wounded healer. So if you're into young, the concept of wounded healer is that most people that are drawn to this type of work have an inner need, I know I do, have an inner need inside themselves, which they're trying to heal through their work and helping others. So of course, healer, heal thyself first. Focus on, you've got to deal with your own stuff in order to then be effective as a coach in order to work with young people. And that's an ongoing journey and an ongoing process. And you're not going to know until you start coaching young people if something's going to trigger you, if something's going to be a hot spot for you. And that's something you have to then take to supervision, manage your boundaries so it doesn't get in the way of you supporting the young person that you're working with. And that also includes if you're working in a role using coaching and it's conflicting priorities. So say you're on a welfare to work contract or a NEAT contract or a youth criminal justice contract or something like that, and you've got specific outcomes that you need to achieve for that contract to deliver the outcomes, that's the reason why it's funded. And then you will try to use coaching, and that's kind of more directive, and there's specific outcomes that you need to and benchmarks that you need to hit. And then you're trying to use a non-directive approach to coaching as the kind of model of change and behaviour change and transformation. Those two things can jar with each other. So we have to learn to be pragmatic and find a balance in between those things in order to still use a coaching approach and methodology within the practical restraints of what we're doing within the realms of the work that you're doing. So that might mean that you can only offer 6 to 10 sessions, for example, because of funding reasons, and you get a young person and they've got loads of things that they need to work on. So it might be that you have to focus on what's the most amount of distance we can travel within this intervention here, that's going to give them some quick wins and give them some outcomes that's going to give them a boost and move them to the next level. But it's not the finished article, it's not the finished journey, it's never finished really, but that moves them up a few steps of the ladder so they're much better off on their own. What's going to be within all the things they want to work on, you negotiate that together, what's the most going to make the biggest difference to you in your life, what do you want to focus on? There's 10 things here, we can only focus on 3, which are the 3 that are going to make a significant difference to you, and we'll focus on those 3 things because I've only got 6 sessions, things like that. So you have to be comfortable to be pragmatic. And again, this is a compromise, probably a controversial view, but we're still being able to use coaching and the approach of coaching within the practical restraints of different ways of working with young people. And at least they're getting it. At least they're getting something, At least they're getting the benefits of it, even if it's not in its purest form. Some purist coaches might be I don't like what she's saying. Sorry, but I'm being practical and pragmatic, and it's going to help them, even if it's they could have had that much help but they only have that much is better than nothing, which is what they're probably getting right now. And then multi-agency working is another skill that you might have to develop when you're using coaching. So often young people do, you know, you might be having to know locally the school that they go to, the college that they go to, what agencies they're involved in, do they go to youth club, do they do sports, what the mental health provision is like around you, what social services is like around you, and kind of see where you sit within this multi-agency approach to supporting the child. And the difficult thing with that is every region is different, every country is different, every local authority is different, every school is different. So depending on how you're going to be using coaching, you really need to be thinking about, where do I fit in the bigger picture of all the stuff that's around this young person, and where does coaching fit in that offer of support? And can it be a conduit to other support? So one thing we used to do with coaching is outreach. So we used to go out into different schools and settings, and even the homes in some cases, for the young people that were not engaging in school and were school avoidant. And I don't even think we used to use that term back then. So it's because it's become such a massive phenomenon. So I'm talking like 2013, nearly like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we did a program called Coaching Outreach in partnership with the local authority in 2 districts of Leicestershire, where we would coach young people to access school again, or access services. So they get, say, you know, referred to CAMS for severe anxiety, but because they're so anxious, they couldn't actually go to the appointment, and then they get taken off the list. See the problem? So, and then have to start all over again. And now the queues and the wait lists are so much higher. So what we used to do is coach them to like move forward and access support and re-engage. And the other thing you can use coaching for is step down. So not only can you use it to access support within a multi-agency, like multi-tiered, or even the Thrive approach, if you've got the Thrive approach in your area, or we can use it for step down. So maybe they've been in a clinical intervention, maybe they've been with CAMS, maybe they've been dealing with some acute mental health needs like anxiety and depression and low mood, like quite serious issues, and they've got to a good point with that, but they're not ready to go it alone. So coaching can be used afterwards to help transition out of more acute need interventions, let's say, into accessing everyday life. So it's like, otherwise it can drop off a cliff, and they can have the intervention and then they can have nothing and be expected to go back to normal. So we need to support them through either transitioning in or transitioning out of other interventions and other services. So that's just one example of how coaching can fit within a multi-agency model. And then I really believe that coaching is an effective early intervention to preventing mental health problems by, like I've said earlier, increasing the resources and capacities for wellbeing to navigate challenges. What we're doing right now is just kind of hoping. Like, we put all this stress on young people and we just kind of hope that they figure it out for themselves when they've got nobody explicitly enabling them to develop the resources for wellbeing and resilience that they need to navigate and negotiate the challenges within the systems and the context that they exist within. Some kids figure it out and most of them don't. That is why we've got a massive epidemic of mental health issues. It's just left to luck, and some are lucky and most aren't. So what we really need to be doing is increasing capacity for more young people to access short-term targeted intervention when they're starting to have a little wobble, before it gets too bad, so we don't have to end up with them on a year-long waiting list with their mental health deteriorating that whole time. So it can nip some of the smaller, lower level issues in the bud, so they're increasing their own resources and capacity, which also then frees up capacity in the workforce for the young people that really do need that mental health problem intervention, because their needs are quite significant, and actually something short term can really help a lot of young people not ever get to that stage. So it can sit with other more acute need interventions and we used to call it tier 4, like CAM services. So you need to choose a program that suits you. What's your focus on coaching? Is it career coaching, academic coaching, employability, NEET, criminality? My approach to coaching kind of sits underneath all of those things. So they're almost like how it the outcomes that can change. Whereas if we work on deeper levels of self-worth, that's why it's called Worth It, because it's about self-worth and self-awareness and interpersonal skills and thinking skills, it can then be used in a range of different settings rather than focus on practical strategies to that sort of like address the symptoms. We're kind of working on what's underneath all of the symptoms at the core of the person to help them increase their internal resources. So have a look at different courses and how they're delivered, whether they are the learning style that you like, online blended learning, you know, do you want an in-person face-to-face workshops? That can often end up being more expensive. Do you want a qualification, or do you just want to know how to do it and actually do it? So quite often in the coaching industry, they're strictly not qualifications, they're accreditations to practice. So if you want a qualification, you can go down the master's degree route or postgraduate certificate, which is, I have both of those. Or if you're a practitioner that wants to actually learn how to coach young people and just use it straight away, you don't necessarily need to go down the whole qualification route. You can go down the certification route and the accreditation route, which is where my course sits. So think about, what do you want to get out of it professionally and personally? Where does it fit with your current work? How much time have you got to do it? Have you got access to young people to practice on, and have you got access to young people to reflect on your learning and, you know, try out the tools and strategies? What else do you get from the training provider? With our course, you get the whole toolkit of resources that have been developed from experience working with young people, and you get support and supervision. We also, with our certification program, help you with business development support and setting yourself up as a coach, and also ongoing skills development, new workshops, CPD opportunities and business development opportunities as well. So if you're interested in becoming a certified coach, the best thing to do is have a look at our website, our certification program page on the website. I'll link it below. And also check out our free course, Introduction to Coaching Young People, because that will really tell you if coaching is the thing that you think you want to learn to help the young people you work with. It can rule it out as much as ruling it in. So I think it's just as important to know what something is to know that you don't want to do it. You might be much more of a counsellor, or you might be more wanting to do therapy, and that's fine. Just coaching not for everyone. So ruling stuff out is just as important as ruling stuff in. So find out more about our approach to coaching and becoming a certified coach through checking out the website and signing up for our free course. And I'll be back again with a new video soon.